Oh, welcome back to another episode of On Sports. I'm Jack, and today's episode we have a very special guest, current professional hockey player Tyler Dill. Tyler is currently playing with KHL Sisak in the International Hockey League, but he's also spent time in the SPHL with the Fayetteville Marksmen, Peoria Rivermen, Vermilion County Bobcats, and the Macon Mayhem before going overseas to Croatia. But before he stepped into his pro hockey journey, he played 4 years at NCAA Division III, Wilkes University for 2 years, and Utica College for 2 years. He also played junior hockey in the USPHL Elite for the Charlotte Rush and the USPHL Premier League, while also getting a little cup of coffee in the NAHL with the New Jersey Junior Titans. So I'm very excited to get Tyler on. So welcome to the show, Tyler Dill.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, of course, it's going good. Just got a little skate in here, mornings or optional skate, so everything's going good here. How are you?
Everything's going great. We have practice coming up here in like 2 hours, so it's a little different than the States practicing in the evenings, but I've adapted to it and I like the evening skates. It definitely helps with the 6 hour time change back home and talking to people. So sleep schedule's a little messed up now, but honestly, I don't mind the afternoon practices.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I want to get like right off the rip, just start and going into like this season for you. You're playing in KHL Sisak in Croatia. So like how's everything going there? And it's your first time overseas as well. So how's that experience for you?
It's been even better than I thought it was going to be. At the end of last year, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with hockey. I went back and forth if I was going to play, if I wasn't, if I was going to play in the States, if I was going to go to Europe. Kind of had that feeling all the way until the end of summer. And I talked to a bunch of teams in Europe and then only one team really in the States. And then towards the end, I kind of was like, all right, I think Europe's the decision. Now it's just where. And I was talking to Team France and Germany and Sweden and then Croatia too. And like honestly, when you first look at that, you're like, okay, France, Germany, Sweden, like that sounds like where hockey is played. And then the Croatian like manager, like everything I asked, they approved, and every like question concern, they had great answers. And I was like, all right, like looks like I'm going to Croatia. Like every person I talked to is like Croatia's like one of the most beautiful places. And I was like, all right, like, and since I've been here, I've loved it. Like super fortunate with the setup that we have and the players that we have. And I love the league. I love like how it's a lot more skilled, and the open ice definitely plays into my game style. A lot less contact, which I'm okay with.
Mm.
Feel
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm getting old now, but I'm not. So, but it's been amazing. I'm so happy I came to Europe. It's been such an experience in itself, like hockey and not even hockey, just like the traveling outside of hockey. It's been amazing. So, super happy I decided to come over here.
Yeah, it's like what's been like the culture shock going over from the States to Croatia? I know you're saying they're very friendly over there. It's like what was that culture change like?
Yeah, I would say the biggest culture shock is like they're direct. Like the people of Croatia are very direct. Like one of the first things I learned is like you don't ask someone how in the States, if like you're my say waitress or waiter and I'll ask you like, oh, how's your day going? Like they don't do that here. They just say like hi, they say good day. They don't ask anything about you. And like if you ask how their day is going, they're probably not going to answer because it's just not their style. I was talking to one our manager's like wife, and she was like, I don't care about your life, you don't care about mine, so don't ask. So they're very straightforward. And at first, like that was like my first day here. I was like, oh, like maybe these people are going to be very direct and like not a lot
Yeah.
of friendliness. But it's just that's their style. Like if they don't like someone, they'll tell them, like, I'm not a big fan of you. Don't talk to me like we're friends. Like it's very opposite of North America, where in North America you have those people like, dude, I hate this guy. I hate this guy. This guy walks in the locker room. What's up, man? Long time no see. And it's like they don't do that. Like they don't have that. And then the people here, like in Croatia, the minimum wage is €4 an hour. Like it's dirt cheap. So I think there's like a bigger praise and like appreciation just for the simple things in life. Like they don't care about the cars, they don't care about like a bunch of shoes. They just care about being with friends and like having a good time. And like that's been the coolest thing to me. Like we go out to a restaurant and like it took me probably like 2 or 3 weeks to realize what was going on, but we go out to a restaurant and then we'd leave and I'd be like, who paid? And they'd be like, oh, he paid like 10 minutes ago. And like you'll be talking and someone will just get up and they'll walk away like they're going to the bathroom and they'll go pay the whole bill. Like splitting checks isn't a thing here. Like they make fun of you if you split a check. Like they're like they call you stingy and stuff. And so like €4 an hour, like I said, nobody has a lot of money, but if you spend it on your friends, like that's what they want to do. Like they want to show their friends that they care about them. And it's like, that's like one of the coolest parts of the culture I like.
Yeah, it's a good way to like put in like just a good way to like show your appreciation for your friends and everything through like stuff like that where they just get up, go pay the bill without you even knowing.
Exactly. I was like, oh, okay. So like, and then, and then it comes like my turn. I was like, I'll be the guy who sneaks away. And then you go sneak away and you try to do it. And they're like, he already paid 5 minutes ago. You're like, when? Like, so, but it's been amazing. And the people are like, I think they're some of the nicest people on the planet is Croatians. Like they're just so down to earth and they have a huge American culture here, which I didn't really realize they would, but like our whole team speaks English and like they all love English movies or like American movies and American
Nice.
music. And like they love dropping movie quotes. And like the fact that like I'm American and I've seen all the movies, like they'll drop a movie quote. And if I get it, they'll love it. Like they love dropping movie quotes.
Makes your life so much easier when you know what they're talking about.
100%. It makes it so much easier because like your first couple weeks in the locker room when everyone's talking Croatian around you and you have zero clue, like I hadn't picked up on the language at all. I'm like, I have no idea what these people are saying. Like there's just like moments where you're like in your own world. And
Yeah.
then, but the fact that everyone speaks English is like, it makes it so much easier.
Oh yeah, I bet. But like going throughout this whole experience, like what's been like the biggest thing you've learned on the ice since
On
it
the
is such
ice.
a change from North America?
Um, I mean, that's hard. Like the first thing I notice is like in the States, you're almost rushed at times to make a play. Like even if there's a guy like close to you, you're kind of like, I got to get this off or else like he's gonna finish my check or
Yeah.
anything. But here, if you just take like that extra second, maybe make one move on a guy, the whole ice is open now. Like you have so much space because they can't stack guys on top of you because of how much space there is. But then like since it's so big, it's super easy. Like we have other North American players who still have a tendency to skate towards the boards. Just because in the States, like you go down the boards, chip it, and like
Yeah.
I've just realized like if you're anywhere near the boards, it's not gonna end well for you. Like if you could stay in the middle of the ice, like your options are just way more like vast. Like you can go any direction. And like that's something that I've really noticed here is like just stay away from the boards. Like I had a coach say, like, just imagine the boards are an electric fence. If you touch it, you get electrocuted. Like stay away. Get when the puck's on the boards, get it off. Like stay away from those things. And so that's definitely been the biggest help over here. Is just like finding and taking the ice because there's so much more in the European ice. Like, and I love it. Like, it's so much better.
Yeah, especially for you and what you were saying earlier with like you're more of the like the skill guy, so like you're being able to make more plays and everything because of the
Yeah.
bigger ice.
So I've loved it. I've loved the bigger ice. It's less contact. The body feels good. So
Oh yeah. Always a plus when you don't have to take your body doesn't have to take as many hits.
yeah, that and road trips, no 3-and-3s, no 8-hour road trips in the SP. Like, I'm not mad about that.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Those are definitely tough, but makes for some fun memories though. That's for
Oh,
sure.
it's the best, dude. The hotels, the buses, and the locker rooms, man. Those are the best memories.
Oh yeah, but you spent a couple years in the SPHL. You spent time with the Peoria Rivermen, Vermilion County Bobcats, making mayhem, and the Fayetteville Marksmen. So like, what was your experience like in the SPHL?
So I first played games in the SP for Fayetteville when I came out of college after my senior year. I knew nothing about professional hockey other than the NHL. I didn't know the business side of it at all. I grew up in Lake Tahoe. Like we've had, I think, three guys who have played NCAA like hockey at all, and one's me, and the other one's my brother, and the third one's a kid that's lived with me for like 8 years now. So there's not a huge hockey base at all in Lake Tahoe. So when I went off to play junior hockey, I had to learn about junior hockey. And then when it came to NCAA, I had to figure out, okay, what's a good Division III college? Like
Yeah.
learn that. And then when I got to pro, it was the same thing. Like there was a big learning curve to it. So I went to Fayetteville after my senior year and I was there for 5 games. I played 4 of them, but I was getting like 2 shifts a period, barely played at all. Played through the regular season, then the regular season was over. The coach released me. And honestly, I was more just confused. I was like, I had other teams to go to, and I came here because you said you wanted me. And then I had 6 shifts a game and was scratched for one of them. Like, I was super confused on the whole thing. And I kind of knew after that I wasn't going to go back to Fayetteville. Like, I was like, all right, like,
Yeah.
they didn't even give me a chance. Like, they didn't give me a sniff. So then I kind of searched around for what I was going to do for the next upcoming year. And actually, Birmingham reached out to me like super early in the summer, and their head coach coached one of my best friends, and my best friend had like nothing but great things to say about him. So I was like, okay. And he was like, hey, we'll try to get you like a coast camp. And like, if that doesn't work out, you'll be with us. But like, we're hoping to get you up there and get a little sniff of it. And I was like, that'd be amazing. So I actually started last year with Birmingham, and I came into the season like really good shape. Like, I felt like probably one of the best times I felt on the ice was last season at the beginning. I was there for 2 weeks, and then they got a handful of guys down from the coast and they sent me on my way packing. And then that was like,
Trickle down effect.
yeah, the trickle down. And that was the first time I'd ever really like realized like, oh shit, okay. Like,
Yeah.
now I'm in the middle of Alabama and I'm unemployed and I have to decide what I want to do with my life. So then I was just, and that was the whole last season was the big, like, just learning experience of what North American pro hockey is really like
Yeah.
in the minor league levels. Like, there's a lot of movement, there's up, down, like sideways movement between teams. And that's just part of the business. Like, I still go look on the transactions page today and I'm like, I can't believe there's every day there's some movement in every league in the States.
Yeah. It's
So it was
crazy.
wild. Then, yep, I was in Peoria for a few weeks, and it was same thing as Fayetteville. Got a handful of shifts. Didn't really do anything because I was playing. I think I played like one game, like 4 shifts, one game, like maybe 6 or 7. And then same thing. He was like, I like, we're gonna go a different direction. And I was like, okay, like, I didn't even get to play. Like, I'm just at this point now I'm confused. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, listen, like, I knew deep down, I knew I was good. I knew I could play. And I was like, I'm just confused why they won't even let me play one game. Like, let me just play one game. And so then I was kind of at that point, like, okay, do I want to play, or is it time to move on? And I kind of sat on the decision for like 2 weeks. It was Thanksgiving time. Thought about it, was like, you know what? Like, it's not, I have to give it a chance. Like, play this season out, then decide. Like, don't just stop halfway through because you've had some like adversity.
Yeah.
So then I ended up going to Vermilion, and got to Vermilion. The coach, the whole time on the phone, the coach was saying, oh, we're going to give you a great opportunity here, sign you to a PTO, which was something we agreed on. Was like, I just want to sign a PTO for 5 games. After those 5 games, we can talk if you like me and if I like you. Like, that's what I was looking for, just based on everything that had happened. And so I got there and he signed me to a contract. And I was like, okay, I know guys want contracts, but I don't want to be like tied to you. I want 5 games. That's it.
Yeah.
But I didn't complain. I signed the contract, and then I played the first game and I was 10th forward, and same thing, 2 to 3 shifts a period, nothing. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know what to do. Like, nobody's giving me a chance. And then Saturday night, the next night, we were losing like 2-0 after the first. Like, our best forward, his name's Austin Albrecht. He's playing in Maine now on the coast. He went up to the coach and was like, can you play Dill with me a few shifts? Like, I think we can do well. And the coach was kind of bitter that a player would say that to him. So he was like, sure, since you know everything. And he put me and Albrecht together. And I think we scored like 3 shifts in and
There we go.
passed it to me. I scored. And then the next night he played us together again. And same thing. Albrecht passed to me. I scored again. And I was like, oh, like, now we're set. Like, now I'll be able to get a leash and start to play. And so then I was in Vermilion for a couple months. Things started going well. Finally worked my way up to like top 6 in power play. And then all of Vermilion came folding down halfway through that season. So that whole thing happened. There's all the stories and everything going
Yeah.
on there. I don't know if you've heard, but
Oh yeah. I think everyone's heard of that.
yeah, no, that was a pretty crazy thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
So
just everything
Then
that went down like must have just been wild because it happened like within a day or something like that, right?
yeah, so we had an off weekend, and we had our off weekend, and then we came back from our off weekend, and the owner of Vermilion had fired our head coach, fired our equipment manager, fired our trainer, fired our video broadcaster, fired like everyone. And we didn't know what was going on. Like we were like, we didn't have anyone to run practices, like anything. And then we contacted the league and was like, hey, like we can't play this weekend. We don't have a coach. We haven't
Yeah.
practiced.
You don't have
Then
anyone.
we don't have anyone. Like we didn't have anything. So then Friday and Saturday, they changed our game so that nobody noticed that Vermilion wasn't playing really. But then Sunday was that home game where I think it was Quad City. We
Yeah.
called, like we knew a bunch of guys on Quad. We're like, hey, we're not playing today. Like, don't make the drive. And they're like, no, coach says we have to make the drive and they have to drop the puck if we want the points. It's like, okay, like so we had no one in the organization. We were all in Vermilion. We were actually playing a pickup basketball game at the time, to be honest. And one of the boys' dads called him and was like, why aren't you on the ice? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm watching like hockey TV and the other team's on the ice and none of your players are on the ice. And so we didn't play that game, which caused like that was like the final straw. Everyone knew that
Yeah.
something was going on. So then a few days later, they finally folded the organization. So that's like a week and a half later, but we were still property of Vermilion. Nobody could go sign to a new team. You could only go to the Fed or you could go to the coast. Like you couldn't sign somewhere else in the SP. Like you were rights of Vermilion,
Vermilion.
even though
Yeah.
they're a team. So everyone sat in Vermilion County, which is like, I swear population is like 300. Like there's nobody there. So I think we sat there for a week and then eventually I was like, okay, I can't sit here anymore. Like I need to go do something. We're not skating. We're not
Yeah.
like I need to get out of this place. So I ended up just drove to Chicago and flew to my girlfriend's house in Rhode Island and was with her for about a week. And then after that week, they finally like sent an email to all of us like, you guys are all free agents now. You can sign wherever you want. Now I'm like, okay, like gave it a try after I was on the verge of quitting and the team folded. Like maybe this isn't for me. Like this might be a sign. Like maybe you should get a job or do something. And so I sat on that for probably like another week and then Macon called and I was like, you know what? Like I'll finish the year off with Macon. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, where's your guys' games? So like we play in Peoria. So I was like, that actually works because my car is in Chicago. So I flew from Rhode Island to Chicago, drove from Chicago to Peoria. And then the last game I played with Vermilion was against Peoria. And one of the guys forgot his nameplate in the locker room in Peoria. And I got into the locker room in Peoria, and there's our goalie's nameplate that's still in there from our last game. And I was like, holy, this has been a whirlwind. So, and then I finished the year off with Macon and came home and that's when I just reassessed, okay, what do I want to do? Like what? And then eventually landed on Europe. So the SP in itself was an experience, but it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about
Yeah.
North American pro hockey, the movement. I think mental toughness is one of the biggest things, like
Yeah.
mental health is another thing. Like all those, like it taught me a lot about myself in a hard way, which sucks, but I'm grateful for what it gave. Like it taught me and gave me. Like it definitely made me stronger and mentally tougher, even though at the moments it didn't feel like that's what it was doing. It was shitty. It sucked at times, but it
Yeah.
was a tough year, but it made me who I am. So I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, you definitely learned a lot about like the business side, and you went through probably one of the craziest things in pro hockey history with the Vermilion County Bobcats, like the whole folding situation there. So like your first full year in the SB like was definitely quite the experience.
Yeah, it definitely was. That's definitely some good words to use. It was quite the experience, and it's funny because like I was on starting with Birmingham. I was there, so it was like four teams. And there's like, and then Fayetteville too the year before. I was like, dude, I played for half the league now, and I haven't even played. Like,
That's crazy. And but like you obviously like got through it and like overcame all that adversity, and now you're playing in Europe. So like, what some tips that or advice you'd give like with people going through stuff like that where adversity is very high, you're trying to just climb over it.
Uh, I think the first thing that comes to mind is one of my best friends I played with. I played in Charlotte and Utica with him. His name is Nick Izagiri. He would always write on his sticks, on the knob, he'd write "Adversity makes a man." So I've always kind of lived by that because it's the truth. It's like adversity is really what shapes you.
Yeah,
And then it's also to realize like that you are playing a game. Like it's an honor to be playing hockey at all. And then it's an honor to play college hockey. And then it's an even bigger honor to play professional hockey. Like you sometimes have to sit back and realize like you should be proud of yourself, which not a lot of people ever think of. Like everything is always comparing to others and looking at other people, but like people don't do a good enough job giving themselves a pat on the back and being proud of them.
yeah,
Like even for me, like a kid from Lake Tahoe who was the first kid to play junior hockey and then the first kid to play NCAA hockey. Like I'm going through last year and I'm like, I suck. Like I shouldn't have played pro hockey. I ruined a great career. Like that's just not the case. And like, you got to look at the bigger picture. Like there's that quote that's like, if you could tell your younger self something now, like what would you say? And it's like, I don't think my younger self would have believed all the stuff I've been through at this point. Like it's been a ride, but it's the process and the journey is like the enjoyment. And so you kind of got to sit on that and think and sometimes sit back and like just relax because everything will work out. And at the end of the day, you are playing hockey still. So like be proud that you have an opportunity wherever it is to continue to play the game.
yeah. It's definitely a privilege, and like just like you said with the journey and everything, like just enjoy it because like hockey doesn't last forever. It's like just to be able to do what you're doing. Like a lot of people would want to be in your spot. So like this just to enjoy the journey and like the grind. Like the grind does get hard, but if you go to the rink every day with a smile on your face and enjoy it, like you're never gonna work a day in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree more with that, man. You got to embrace the grind. Like that's because it does. The grind wears you down at times, but like I wouldn't change it for a second. Like it's all been worth it.
Yeah, exactly. But like it's a lot of fun, and just got to continue to just go with the or flip, go with the punches.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then another thing going into this year, I really wanted to focus on was like I wanted to play hockey for fun again. Like it was
Yeah,
something I really got away from even in college. Like college becomes, okay, I'm a freshman, I need to do well so I can get in the lineup. And then
yeah,
okay, now I'm a sophomore, I have to do it again. And it's like there was so much oriented style when you're in
yeah,
college even. Like you forget to like enjoy just hockey. Like you when you were a little kid and there was no stress and you were just going out, like it was all amazing. And so like that was the biggest thing coming into this year is like I was like, I want to have fun with hockey again. Like play hockey to have fun like you're a little kid. Like and at the end of the season, decide where you want to go, but just enjoy it because this could be your last competitive season ever. Like who knows?
yeah,
So that's something I really focused on this year. And it's funny because I talked to my sports psychologist about that, and he was like, "You're gonna see like when you treat hockey like that, and you play for fun, and you play for the root happiness that you started playing the game for. Good things are gonna happen, and you're gonna play better than you have before." And he couldn't have been more right. Like I'm playing some of the best hockey I've ever played in my life, and I'm having the most fun ever. Like
yeah. It just takes all the stress off, and like you're not overthinking anything. You're just letting your brain just be free and just go and play just like you were when you were a little kid.
exactly, just free the brain. Like if you can just the craziest thing is if you play hockey and you can play without thinking, you're gonna play better.
Yeah,
It's when you
it's
think,
crazy
then you
crazy how
have
that
problems.
works.
It's crazy. Like you got to learn how to not think and just trust your instincts because when you think, that's when it gets hard.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I've learned for sure. But I want to transition to college hockey and junior hockey before we wrap things up here. So you played 4 years at NCAA Division III, two with Utica College and two with Wilkes University. It's like, what was your college hockey experience like?
I loved my college hockey experience. I thought it was amazing. I am super fortunate that I got to play at two different schools. Like it was definitely a hard transfer at the time, but I'm super fortunate that I was able to play at those two schools. Going into Utica, I committed to Utica a year before I was going in. So I still had my age out year juniors, and then I was going into Utica just because they had a bunch of seniors leaving that year. So there was our freshman class had 13 guys. So we brought in a big freshman class that year, and it was the best case scenario. Like all the freshmen were super close. I lived with 7 freshmen, and like it was that year was a blast. And like we had a great team. The boys had a good time off the ice, and like it was super fun. And I played really well. Like for Utica's, like it was a competitive school. Like you got a lot of guys from Canadian juniors, a lot of guys from North American League and stuff. And I worked my way into the lineup, and I think I was scratched twice my freshman year, which I was super happy about. And then I led the freshmen in points. So I was kind of like going into my sophomore year, like, okay, like I should get a little longer leash and be able to do a little better this year. And my sophomore year, well, we lost my freshman year. We lost in the conference finals.
Yeah.
And that kind of caused like mayhem in Utica. We should have won, and we ended up losing. And our coach was pissed at us. And the next year, he brought in, I don't even know how many guys, but we had 21 forwards on the roster,
Wow.
which was, yeah, that was an adjustment. We had a great captain that year. Our captain was Jared Fitzpatrick, and he was kind of like brought us all in before the season. And before we even started practicing, it was like, guys, we're not all going to play every game this year. Like, you'll be lucky if you play every game this year, but we have to stay together no matter what happens. And I think that talk like spoke a lot to all the guys because we all knew it was going to be a tough year. And then it was basically with that many forwards at the beginning of the season, you either played Friday night or Saturday night. And Friday nights, if you scored Friday, you got to play Saturday too. But it
Yeah.
was there. I think we only had like 2 or 3 forwards that actually played every game that year. And so it was tough. And then we only had 8D that year.
Wow.
So I played D all the way up until juniors. I played D. So I was like, we had 21 forwards, so our coach would throw a few guys back on D, and we had a D get hurt. So we had 7D for practice, and he was like, hey, do you mind playing D today? Because like you would know if you were playing Friday when you got into the rink Monday for practice, because the lineup chart would stay the same until Friday's game. So if you were in the top 4 lines Monday's practice, you were playing Friday. If you weren't, you
Yeah.
weren't. And I was on like 5th or 6th line that Monday. And the coach asked me, hey, like, do you mind practicing on D this week? Like, we're short. And I was like, I'll practice on D, but if I'm better than one of our D in practice, you have to play me. And he said, deal. And so practice that week. Friday, I dressed as the extra forward, and I played a few shifts on forward. And then we had a D take a bad penalty, and they ended up throwing me in on D for like the 3rd period, and I had a good period. And then Saturday, I played the whole game on defense. And then basically the rest of my sophomore year, I played D until playoffs. And then playoffs, I went back to forward, but I played my whole sophomore year on D. So I was happy I got to play, and I was still making an impact on the games and everything, but I wasn't a D. I was a forward. So we did well. We won the conference that year. We were going into the NCAA tournament ranked 1. So we got a 1st-round bye, and then COVID hit. So COVID shut down that, and everyone went home and everything. And I was like, sucks the season's over. And it also sucks. Like I really wanted to have an exit interview with the coaches and get their
Yeah.
honest opinion. So like a few months goes by and the coaches reach out. We want to do our exit interview. I was like, okay, like I'm excited to hear what they have to say because I just played D and I'm a forward.
Yeah.
And they were like, you were the biggest part of this team. Like you like, and I was like, I was a defenseman and I play forward. Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, but that's such like versatility. And I was like, but I want to be a forward. I'm a forward.
Yeah. You're a
Like,
forward
yeah,
at heart.
like you'll be a forward next year. Like you don't need to worry about that. And I was like, okay, like sounds good. And that like exit interview kind of rubbed me wrong because I would rather than be like, you started the year like shit and we liked you on D and then you really showed to us that you could play D. What do you want to play next year? What are you feeling? What are your goals? Like they just kind of like blew smoke up my ass the whole time. And that was kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. So I didn't know what I was gonna do. But then middle of summer, my junior coach actually called me and said, would you transfer to Long Island? Because they were just coming in as a Division I program. And I said, yeah, I would transfer to Long Island right now. Like, that's the perfect out. Like, I had fun at Utica, did everything, and now I could play Division I. Like, that's always been my dream. So end up talking to Long Island's coach. He's like, yeah, we can't really talk until you get in the transfer portal and pull out of Utica. Just wanted to start like this. And once you get all that done, we'll talk. I was like, okay, sounds good. Talked to my parents. Like, Long Island didn't have a lot of money, so they weren't giving out like big athletic scholarships.
Yeah.
So I was gonna have to take out student loans. And I was like, honestly, like, to my parents, like, I'll take out student loans, I'll pay it back over time. Like, almost everyone else in the United States does that. Like, I'll be fine. And then pulled out of Utica, called their coach, got in the transfer portal, and then it was probably like maybe end of July. I still hadn't really heard from Long Island. Like, I was admitted into the school and all this stuff and hadn't heard from the coach. And so I called my junior coach, was like, listen, like, you need to get a hold of Long Island's coach because the season's coming up and I know nothing about this. And the coach called me and was like, hey, like, I ended up asking a lot of guys, and we got a lot of Division I transfers and a lot of guys from USHL and North American League that said yes, that I didn't think they would. And I'm really sorry, but like, I don't have space for you. So then I was like, okay, like, now it's almost August and I don't have a college to play for.
Yeah. You're like scrambling now.
Yeah, so I was in like scramble mode and I was like, well, I don't know what I should do. I talked to a few different colleges, and a lot of guys from Charlotte, where I played juniors, ended up going to Wilkes University. So I was like, okay, like, let me reach out to them. Like, they're doing well as a program. Let's see. And so I talked to their coach, and it was a great conversation with their coach. I really liked him. He's a young guy. I think he's like a 93 or 94 birth year. So he's only a few years older than us. He was right out of college. And I was like, everything this guy's saying right now is like amazing. And I already know half the team because I played with him. So it's like, this would be the easiest. And so then I ended up choosing Wilkes and went to Wilkes. And we had our COVID year. We only played a handful of games. But that summer, that COVID summer, since there was no gyms, I kind of like stopped weightlifting and got more into like running. And I ended up dropping like, I think probably like 15 pounds of body fat.
There we
And I
go.
could just like, out of nowhere, I could fly on the ice. Like, I was able to just fly around the ice. And like, I got my junior year and I was like, holy, like, this is a whole different animal, and played well my junior year, and then came back my senior year and had a great year too. And yeah, so I was super fortunate to see kind of two different sides of Division III college hockey. Like, Wilkes had just started as a program. Like, when we graduated, we had 18 seniors in our senior class at Wilkes, which was a super fun time. Like, that senior year of hockey was amazing to have like 18 guys who had been through it for 4 years, and like, guys had transferred in, guys had transferred out. Like, it was, but that group of guys, like, it was most that group's like last year of hockey, and everyone like bought in, and that was an amazing year. And then I also got to see Utica, which had been like an established place, like very well-known Division III market with a whole different like class of players. And the cultures of those two schools were like extremely different, because at Utica, you had Division I transfers, you had USHL guys, you had guys who thought they should be Division I, you had guys that were cocky, you had egos, you had all sorts of different things. And then you also had like, Utica has like a good group of tier 3 guys every year. Like, at least when I was there, I think we had like 10 tier 3 guys that did really well in tier 3. And like, so you had that whole different aspect. You had guys like there was guys that would like, we really have to practice today. There was a lot of complaining.
Yeah.
And then I got to Wilkes, and it was like a whole different layout. Like, it almost felt like I went back to junior hockey, because I was a junior, everyone was juniors. There was no seniors. Like, everyone felt like young. Like, it was just like, it was a young school because no one had been there for like 4 years, and it was like super fun. And all those guys like were super fortunate to be playing college hockey. And like, Wilkes was a great school. Like, it's probably one of the grittiest, and it's a good program, but not many people know. Like, our practice is second semester, we're at 6 a.m. So we're getting to the rink at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, I was waking up my junior year, I was waking up at 4 a.m. and like I would do yoga before I'd go to practice, and then I'd go to practice. And it was because basically I was like, we have 10 games this season, like let's go all out for 10 games. But it was like
Yeah.
4 a.m. alarm clock, like that was like, oh my God. And
Probably
so,
brutal
but
waking up every day at that time, but you're like, I have to.
yeah, it was wild to go like wake up at 4, get everything done, go skate, and get to your house, and it's like 8 in the morning. You're like, I could do homework before class, like in the morning. Like, so it was wild, but I like it was a COVID year, so we didn't have classes in person. So like me and my roommate, we'd go skate, and we'd come home and we'd like hang out the whole day. Like it was like playing juniors again, but it was so fun.
Yeah,
So I
it's
was
definitely
super
definitely a
fortunate to
fun
see.
time.
Oh, it was super fun. I was super fortunate to see those two sides of college hockey, and like those two teams actually had a really good rivalry. So that was I made it fun. It was something my mom didn't want me to go to Wilkes just so I didn't have to play Utica. So my last college hockey game was actually against Utica. We lost in the conference finals, which
Oh,
was shitty, but it was kind of it was a circle, right? Circle of life
yeah,
right there. It's like first college game was in Utica and last one was in Utica, like for a different team. But it was amazing. Like it was super fun. Those games became like the Wilkes versus Utica games became super intense, and it was such a fun rivalry to go like back and forth with them. And I played it on both sides. Like I played for Utica and we played Wilkes freshman sophomore year, and then was on Wilkes and we played Utica. And it's like it was definitely wild being in Utica. And like I think that was the first time I actually got like a good boo in my career. Is like when I returned back to Utica and they had fans and stuff. And I was like, you know what? That's honestly it's kind of sick. Like
yeah,
you're doing something right if people are booing you. It means they know who you are. Like
yeah. That you just play better when you get all the boos too, because you know everyone's
oh,
noticing you whenever you're on the ice and you're just buzzing around, just not even like just motivates you a little more.
exactly. It was fun. So it was super fun to see both sides of that. And I love both schools and I have friends I still keep in contact with from both schools. So I was super fortunate to basically have two different families throughout college.
Yeah,
And they were completely
that's
different.
sick.
Like, it was awesome. So I was really happy with my college experience and I'm glad I transferred and the way it all went down. Like I'm a big believer that everything does happen for a reason. And
Yeah.
so I think it does. So, and I was happy that I went to Wilkes and I love that group of guys and we still keep in contact every day. That's a pretty funny group of guys right there, honestly.
Yeah, so I saw two different sides, saw both business sides of things going into college hockey. Like you had to learn it again when you went professional, when you played it, when you went professionally. So like it just you learned so much just from those 4 years of just playing college hockey.
100%. Like you learn so much about the process of everything. Like I even my freshman year at Utica, the first time I was scratched, like I was like devastated. Like I had never been scratched before in my career. And I was like, what? Like I was pissed off. And it was like that's just kind of like the culture of college hockey.
Yeah.
Like you're a freshman, you're not gonna play every game. Like you're that's just kind of how it works. Like there's a few who do, but you kind of got to get used to that and got to realize that there's like you got to climb the ladder in college. You're there for 4 years, which is I love that about college. Is like that's when coaches put a lot of development into players because there's no
Yeah.
trades, there's cutting, like there's you're stuck with these guys and you commit to them for 4 years.
Yeah, you got to pay your dues, and that's what you got. You just got to do anything you can to get better and show that the coaching staff and your teammates that you're putting in the work and you're willing to you could take a spot whenever needed.
Exactly. So I would say the only like probably the worst part about transferring schools was Utica had a rule. Freshmen bought all the alcohol for the parties at the beginning of the year. So we had 13 freshmen, fortunately. So it wasn't a whole lot. It was
So I
each guy
did
by like
didn't
eight.
you didn't have to pay it too much.
Yeah. So I wasn't, but you do your time as a freshman and then your
Yeah,
sophomore, junior, and senior year, you get your booze paid for by the freshmen. It's just that's
yeah.
how it works. But then I transferred out and I get to Wilkes and I'm like, yeah, like let's go freshies. Like, oh, we don't do that, man. I was like, oh, like when they were freshmen, they were freshmen. There was no seniors, there was no juniors. Like their freshman class was the entire team, so there wasn't going to be
Yeah.
freshman duties or anything because there was no upperclassmen. So I missed out on 2 years of free booze, but other than that, I was really happy with the transfer.
Yeah, you got the other two covered, so
Yeah,
or at
exactly.
least one.
Yeah, my sophomore year, so that was good.
Yeah, but like what were some of your favorite memories like playing college hockey?
Uh, there's a lot. Probably my favorite, honestly, like I said, transferred my junior year. Always with the way the schedule lines up, Wilkes and Utica would play in December for the first time. So I knew we'd play them later in the season, but since COVID messed everything up with the schedule, we started my junior year with a home and home against Utica. So we played Utica in Wilkes, and then we played in Utica the next night. So I was like, this is the big game. Like I transferred and now I have to now we have to win because then it'll be worth it and the coach will be pissed.
Yeah, it's a game that you
So
have circled on the calendar.
exactly. And it was the first game of the season. It was the first game with Wilkes and everything. And they ended up going up 1-0. We tied it 1-1. And then probably like 10 minutes left in the third. I ended up scoring. And
Nice.
I was pumped. Like it was probably one of my best goals. Like it looked like slow motion. Like I shot it from like top of the circles, and my buddy was like another kid from California was playing goalie. So I was like, and I scored, and like everything was like slow motion. Like I was like, holy shit! Like I just did it. Like I scored against them. And then at Utica, they used to do this like analytics page. So after the games, they'd break down your whole game with analytics. Like a turnover would be -1, a shot on net would be +1. Like, and they do all these different stats, and then you'd have a score at the end. And my sophomore year, when they weren't really playing me at the beginning of the year, like they were sandbagging my stats. Like, and I knew it because I had done my own because I was so mad about it, like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So then I scored, and if you scored, it was 3 point, like it was +3 on your analytics page. So I scored, and then I skated past their bench. I yelled at the coach, like, add that to analytics page. And I was pretty pumped on that. And then we ended up going on to win that game. So, and that was the first time
Nice.
that Wilkes had beaten Utica ever in the short school history, but it was a big game. So it was super fun.
For
But
first
I would
win
say that,
too. So I can't
uh-huh.
really complain. First win when you're with Wilkes, so I can't really complain.
Yeah, there was like no complaints. I was like cloud 9. I had guys texting me from Utica that were like, dude, I'm so happy you scored tonight. Like, I was like, see, that's what's cool. It's like I didn't have any bad blood with the team. I
Yeah.
love the team. And it was just between me and the coach. Like, we just didn't see it
Yeah.
eye to eye. And that's why things went the way they did. But the guys and everything, like, I went up before I came to Wilkes. I had to go to Utica I left my car in Utica and I left all my stuff in my room because I was going back. And when I transferred, I had to go to Utica to pack all my stuff up and get my car. So I stayed there for a weekend, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday with the boys. And all the incoming freshmen were already there. And so I partied with the team for like a weekend. And then I had to say bye to all the boys on Sunday. I was like, I'll see you boys. And they were like, can't believe you're leaving. And I was like, I know, I can't believe it either. Like we just partied, like everything's all good, boys, but I'm out of
Yeah.
here. And so it was pretty funny that I partied with them. And then the next game I played was against all those guys.
And you scored against them.
So
Makes it
that's
all that much sweeter.
yeah, so that's probably one of my favorite memories that I have from actual playing college hockey.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just to go through college hockey, have those memories, like especially with the teams you transferred to, like play head to head against each other and get a goal like that. Like nothing, you can't make that shit up.
No, exactly. Like it was like the perfect storybook. And all I mean, perfect storybook is we would have won Saturday night in Utica and like
Yeah.
been a big upset, but we ended up losing Saturday night. So it was but it was amazing. It was like that's one of my best memories I have from playing like college hockey was that first game against Utica when the last game I played was for Utica against Wilkes, and the next game I played was Wilkes against Utica. Like it was those two teams played 4 times in a row, and I played two on one team and I played two on the other.
That's
So
pretty sick.
yeah, it was funny. And then my sophomore year, we went on a run, and I think we won like 21 games straight or something. And we won the conference, and then COVID canceled everything. And before our game in Wilkes, I saw like a Twitter page, like some crazy Utica fan. There's a lot of those guys up there actually, who had done his research, and he was like, Utica, I think it was like 2 wins away from the most consecutive wins in a Division 3 ever because it would
Oh,
carry on since they didn't lose their last game. So then we won. Wilkes won Friday night, so Utica broke their streak. But I was like, I still have the streak. So if I win Saturday, I will be in sole possession of the longest Division III winning hockey streak ever. But we lost
And
Saturday,
then
so
you
I
lost, yeah.
don't so I don't hold it personally, but I was
Almost, almost.
yeah, I was really hoping it would have been a funny little stat that only I would have known. But I was like, when I saw that tweet, I was like, if I win, I have the longest winning streak ever. Like,
You would have gave it to your old team too about that.
oh, I would have definitely given it to him. Like we had a good enough, like I said, with the boys, I had a good enough relationship where I could have said that stuff to them and they would have.
Yeah.
So
They just laughed it off.
exactly. A few of them would. A few of them would have been like, you fucking dick for transferring. But
Yeah. It is what it is though.
exactly. So it was amazing.
Yeah, but I want to jump into your junior career a little bit here before we wrap things up. So you played in the USPHL elite and premier with the Charlotte Rush before getting a cup of coffee in the NAHL with the New Jersey Junior Titans. So was like the process to find your junior team in Charlotte.
Yeah, because that was a process too. That was a learning experience in itself, just like everything else has been for me. But I came out of 18s and I wanted to play in North American League. And so that's really all I was looking at. Charlotte had called me and it was a great conversation. I really liked their head coach and everything he said. And I was like, listen, like I'm shooting for the North American League, but if everything else fails, like we can continue this conversation. And he was super persistent with it. He would call me once a week, just checking in, just to talk, which at the time I thought was weird. Now I think like, okay, that's a really smart recruiter, like
Yeah.
showing that he cares personally and doesn't just want you for what you can do on the
Yeah,
ice.
he has interest in you and you personally, not just what you're doing on the ice.
Yeah. So, but I was pretty set on playing for Aberdeen. My 18's assistant coach was the head scout for Aberdeen. So I talked to Aberdeen, I even went to their pre-draft camp just because he was like, hey, like they watch game film, but they want to watch you just come play. And I was like, all
Yeah.
right, like no pre-drafts or the big money grab, but I was like, whatever, I'll come play. Like, and I did really well in pre-draft, and the coaches were like, yeah, like we're gonna put you on the draft board and like we'll talk to you throughout, but like we'll see you at main camp. And I was like, all right, sounds good. So then the draft comes and they called me the day before the draft and said they were going to take me in the later rounds. And I was like, perfect, like sounds good. Charlotte's coach called me and was like, hey, like New Jersey doesn't have an entire draft. Would you be interested in New Jersey drafting you? If you don't go to Jersey, if you don't make it in Jersey, you'll come to Charlotte. I was like, I don't know Jersey's coaches. I don't know anything about the organization. Like, I know a lot about Aberdeen, and that's really what interests me. He was like, okay, thanks for being honest. So then the draft came, and I didn't get picked by Aberdeen. So I was kind of like, all right, like this is the whole North American League run around, like to say, we want you, we want you. You go to camp, spend
Yeah.
your money, and then maybe next year we'll try again. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want that. So I called my coach from 18s, who was their scout, and was like, I just need you to be straightforward with me. Like, if I have an opportunity to make this team, I'll come. If you guys have me penciled out, don't waste my money. I'll go somewhere else. He was like, no. There was a goalie that ended up opening up late in the rounds that we didn't think would be there. So we took him over you. Like, it's nothing to be worried about. I was like, okay, like I just said, if you want to shoot me straight, shoot me straight. So
Yeah.
I was like, felt good. I went to camp and I went to main camp and like I like I think I played 5 games and I had like 8 goals. Like everything was going in the net. Like shitty backhands from like the corner found this way in the net. And I was like, dude, this is like I can't miss. Like, and then they cut me and I was like,
You're like,
all
what?
right. Like it was basically one of those times like they cut me and I was like, okay, now this is where I'm confused because I know I outplayed a lot of these guys. So
Yeah.
why would they cut me? Like, is it my body language? Is it like my skating? Like, what was just more confused than anything and was like, all right, like, whatever. So then Charlotte's coach called me the next week and was like, I'm guessing you made Aberdeen. And I was like, no, they actually cut me. I told him all about it. And he was like, all right, well, Jersey didn't like their guys at main camp and they want to know if you want to just start the year with them at training camp. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, like I'll start the year in training camp. And he's like, and if you get cut, like, then you'll come to Charlotte. And that's what like made me hesitant, because it was like, oh, like there's a whole, okay,
Yeah.
if you get cut, then you come. So like that made me hesitant, but I was like, you know what? If I do what I just did in Aberdeen, like I will make this team. So I went to camp in Jersey and I was there for probably like a month and a half. My first year, didn't play any games, was practicing well, like was in really good shape at that time. And then they were scratching guys. And then when they'd scratch a guy, they'd have a one-on-one meeting with the guy. They would scratch me and they wouldn't meet with me. So I was super confused. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I was like, I was just in a weird place, because I was like, why wouldn't they meet with me and just say like, hey, if you work on these things, or like we see this, or like we want to look at this guy, like they would tell everyone else, like there'd be 6 scratches, they would meet with 5 of them, and then I would just be sitting there, and the boys would be like, what was your meeting about? And they would tell each other, and what's yours? Like, I didn't have a meeting. Like, what? Like, I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And then
It's
they ended
weird.
up cutting me. It was super weird. They ended up cutting me, and I went down to Charlotte. And I was hesitant at first with Charlotte. Like, I was like, is this where I want to be? I'm in North Carolina playing tier 3. And at that time, there was the USPHL Premier, Elite, and USP3. So they hadn't added the NCDC yet. So it was like Elite was our top team, and we had a USP3 team, but we didn't have Premier because we were in the South.
Yeah.
And I was there for like 2 or 3 weeks, was kind of like still hesitant. Is this where I want to play? Like, and then that third week, I ended up playing with a couple guys and like had a blast in practice, and was like, oh, like these guys can play. Like now that I'm getting to meet the guys, like these guys can play and everyone's super cool.
Change
I
your
was
whole
like, all right,
mindset.
changed like everything. And then we went, had a showcase. And after my first game of the showcase, Utica ended up calling me and my line mate, and they wanted to offer us like commitments for a year out. And I was like, oh, like that works out. Like that actually, like Utica, and like you Google Utica and you see the rink they play at and their teddy bear
Yeah.
toss, and you're like, oh, like, yeah, I would play here. Like, didn't do too much research in it or anything, and ended up playing there, and then played that whole first year in Charlotte, and I loved it. Like, I love the boys. I love the culture of that team. That coach Ryan Crothers is like one of the biggest inspirations of my hockey career. Like, he just knows how to push players' buttons. He knows how to coach the game. He knows how to like, he's super, super smart. And like, he had a great professional career, and like, he wears his heart on his sleeve. And he's like one of my biggest mentors throughout my entire career. And so after that season, we ended up winning the whole USPHL that year, which was like an adventure in itself, because that's what he kind of preached, was like, it was only their second year as a program, and the first year as a program, I think they won like 10 games. So for us to win the whole league in our second year as a program was like super amazing. And the whole year, coach just preached like, trust me, when you win, it's going to be fun. Like, I know how to have fun. Like, and we won the national championship, and we partied for like 7 days straight, like all different sorts of parties, everything. Like, it was a blast. And so at the end of that week, we had our exit meetings. A lot of our guys that weren't aging out were like, yeah, I want to play in North American League.
Yeah.
And they were all good enough. And then for me, I was like, listen, like, I don't want to play in North American League. Like, I had my experiences with it, and I don't want anything to do with it. I want to come back here. And he was like, all right, like, sounds good. And I was really happy I did that, because then I didn't have to worry about training to go to like, main camp for the NAHL and then all these things. Like, I just went, enjoyed summer, trained. And then when season came around, I just reported to Charlotte and had a really good off season that year. And I kind of came into that season, I felt like really good on the ice, and everything was clicking. And I was the captain of the team that year. And that team was probably the most skilled team I ever played on. Like, we had a kid who was a third liner for us. He was scratched a handful of games, and last year he was a Hobie Baker candidate. Like,
Wow.
as tier 3, like our goalie went to AIC. Like, we had one kid who played in the Ontario League. Like, that team was deep with guys. Like, we had a kid who went Division 3 Rookie of the Year the next year. Like, it was a deep roster with a lot of skill. And I was like, and I think we lost 3 games that year. Like, we were unstoppable. And then of course the national championship game of the USP, we ended up losing. So it was kind of heartbreak, but my junior experience in a whole was so amazing. I love Charlotte. I loved the culture of that organization. I think that was the first time I'd really experienced like, because every coach says it, even when you're playing U16 hockey, like our culture, we need to work on our
Yeah.
culture. But like, what is culture if you don't explain it or show it? Like, and so
Yeah.
Charlotte like really showed me what having like a good culture is, to where like our coach would preach like, we're going to be the New York Yankees of junior hockey. Like you guys are going to be presented that way. You're going to be professional. You're going to walk around. You're going to eat with your hats off. Like you're going to do everything in the most professional manner. And that taught me a whole lot just about culture, professionalism, how to be a pro. Like that's when I first really realized how to be a pro, is just because our coach had played 10, 15 years in the East Coast League, and he knew what it takes to play 10 years of pro hockey, because it's not easy. And
Yeah.
he taught us that. And he was super big on bringing guys in who were better people than they were hockey players. And I don't know how he did it, but he found some of the best humans that were some of the best hockey players I've ever seen. Like it was amazing. And I was super fortunate to be the captain my second year. And just everything I taught and learned. And like even the last 2 summers, we've gone to weddings for guys on the teams, and they've been the most fun weddings. Like that group of guys is something special both years. So I was super happy that I played in Charlotte, which was kind of a nowhere spot when I first got there. And now it's kind of like a hotbed for tier three.
Yeah.
So I love it
That's
there.
awesome.
So juniors it was an experience. And then I got called up my age out year. They asked if I wanted to go to Blaine. So I went to Blaine. I said I'd go to Blaine as long as I played 2 games. And they said, okay. And then they played me 1 game, and I played like 2 or 3 shifts in the first 2 periods. And we were winning. And our coach took the whole fourth line out of the locker room. And he said, if you guys all like, if you play this whole third period and don't get scored on, I'll add a plus on all your guys' score sheets for the game, so you guys are positive. And my 2 line mates were like jacked up, like tough guy, NAHL guys, like, oh yeah, that's good. And I
Let's
was
do
like,
it. Do it. Do it.
I was like, a plus? That's like, what? Like, who cares? Like, just give us a chance. Like,
Yeah.
so, and then they scratched me for the next 2 games. I don't know how they got 2 games on elite prospects. Like they rostered me for a game, but didn't let me play or something. But basically I got back to Jersey, and like I said, I only wanted to go for Blaine. I didn't know if they liked me or not. The coach had, like, we had meetings while we were in Blaine, and he had nothing but great things to say about me. But then he scratched me for 2. And then like I saw him in the bathroom, and he like buried his head, like wouldn't look at me. And the same coach who wouldn't have meetings with me when he would scratch me the year before. So I was like, I don't know if this guy is like intimidated, or he doesn't know what to
Yeah.
say, or what it is. So basically when we got back to Jersey, I just packed my stuff up, left the gear they gave me in my stall, and just drove back to Charlotte.
That's a crazy junior hockey story, and just like your whole like junior career overall, because you're like like your goal is to play in the NAHL, and then you finally found your place in Charlotte, and you're like, I honestly don't care if I go to the NAHL, like I just want to play in Charlotte, and just like you found like that love for Charlotte to just stay there and grind it out.
Yeah, it's 100% what it was. And it was like, I was super happy that I found a place that I could work on my game completely and be myself for a whole season and not have to worry. And like
Yeah.
my first year in Charlotte, I was dealing with the whole, like, just got cut from the NAHL, and maybe I'm not that good, and the overthinking and like all that. And so I wanted a full season where I didn't care about what other people were doing. I didn't care about what leagues guys played in. Like I just wanted to be somewhere, focus on that, and win a championship. And we got really close, and everything else was I did, but it was amazing. I love Charlotte, and Charlotte will always have a place in my heart.
Yeah, and it like all goes back to like what we were saying earlier, just playing like you're a little kid again, and just not overthinking about anything, just going out there, having a free mind, and just play your game.
100%. That's what I did, and it was amazing. And I was super happy I came back to Charlotte. Like that was definitely the decision that one of my like better decisions in my career was to go back to Charlotte that second year. And like for one, it taught me how to be a leader. And I loved our coach, but he was hard on us. Like the stories with that guy are crazy. Like he had us chasing his golf cart at like 5 in the morning one time. And I think like 5 days later, we were in Boston playing the national championship game, my first year juniors, and we were chasing his golf cart 5 days before that at 5 in the morning. So he was a little crazy, but it was the best type of crazy, and he
Yeah.
knew what he was doing always.
Sometimes that
So
crazy is good for you guys.
exactly. And it was good. It was super good for us. And it was super good for me to be a captain under that because it taught me how to be like an actual captain and not
Yeah.
just like the best player on a tier 3 team that gets to wear a C. Like it taught me how to actually be a leader and how to approach the game and how to address the locker room and all those different things. Like I was super happy that I was able to be a captain and also learn from him because I think he's one of the best leaders I've ever met.
Yeah, that's great that you're able to learn from him and then use that knowledge into being a captain for your team, being a leader, and using that to help the team grow like on the ice and off the ice as well.
Yeah, for sure. And we were big on that. It was important to have fun off the ice and on the ice. So
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have a little bit of fun both on and off the ice.
yeah, it's about. You have to.
Oh yeah, but I think this is a great place to wrap things up here. So I want to thank you for joining the show, and I really appreciate you coming on. And I want to wish you the best of luck going forward with the season in CSAC.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on again, man. It was super fun.